Mike stood on the dusty path leading back into Limuru, a small, beautiful village in central Kenya. The once familiar breeze felt different now, heavier, laced with guilt. His heart thumped as he thought of Mary, his childhood sweetheart. They had been engaged for years, the perfect village love story. Everyone thought they'd end up married with a white picket fence. Well, maybe not a fence, but at least goats and a couple of cows. Yet here he was, fresh off a bus from Nairobi with a secret that could destroy everything. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, hoping it would take the guilt along with it. It didn't. The weight of broken promises. "Mike, you're back," Liz, his loud, nosy cousin, shouted from the edge of the road. Liz always knew how to show up at the wrong time. Mike forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm back. How's everything?" Liz grinned like she knew something. "Mary's been waiting for you. You know, the whole village thought you might have run away for good." Mike's stomach turned. He hadn't run away, but he might have done something worse. Leila, the woman from Nairobi. The memories flashed in his mind. Those nights in the city, the stolen moments. Leila had swept him off his feet with her charm, sophistication, and just a touch of madness. Now, he was left holding onto a promise he wished he hadn't made. Chapter 1. Promises and Regrets. Mary sat outside their family's mud house, braiding her sister, Faith's, hair. Faith was asking questions, lots of them, as usual. She was always curious about Mike and Mary's wedding plans. Too curious. "Mary, do you think you'll live in Nairobi when you get married to Mike?" Faith asked with a smirk. Mary rolled her eyes. "Why would I move to Nairobi? Mike knows his place is here. He's a fisherman, not some city businessman." But Mary wasn't as sure of her words as she wanted to be. Mike had changed over the past few months. His calls had become less frequent, and when they did speak, he was distant, like his mind was in another world. Nairobi had changed him, she thought. Just then, Tim, Mike's childhood best friend, came running up the road, panting as if he'd seen a ghost. "Mary, Mike is back!" Mary's heart raced. Finally, after all this time, she jumped up, smoothing her dress. "Faith, I'll finish your hair later." "Tim, are you sure?" Tim, gasping for air, nodded. "And he's not alone. There's a woman, a city woman." Chapter 2. The Uninvited Guest. Later that evening, the village was buzzing with whispers. Who was this mysterious woman who had come with Mike? People peeked out from their doorways as Mike and Leila walked through the village. Leila was everything the village wasn't, tall, elegant, and wrapped in a brightly colored, expensive-looking dress. She didn't fit in with the rustic simplicity of Limuru, and that was exactly the problem. Mike could feel the villagers' eyes on them, especially Mary's. He hadn't told her about Leila yet, and he definitely hadn't told her that Leila was pregnant. As they approached Mary's house, Mike could practically hear his own heartbeat in his ears. "Mike, who is she?" Mary's voice was soft, but firm, her eyes darting between him and Leila. Leila stepped forward, her voice dripping with the confidence only a city girl could muster. "I'm Leila, and I'm carrying Mike's child." Mary's face went pale and the entire village seemed to hold its breath. For a moment, time stopped. Tim, always the comedic relief, even in the worst situations, whispered to Liz, "Well, that escalated quickly." But Mary didn't hear him. Her eyes were locked on Mike. "Tell me this isn't true." Mike, unable to find the right words, could only nod. He had no excuses, no explanations. He had betrayed her. Chapter 3. Divided Loyalties. The village council called an emergency meeting the next day. It wasn't just about Mike, Mary, and Leila anymore. It had become a full-blown scandal. The elders sat in a circle under the old mango tree, muttering among themselves. Mike sat next to Tim, who was nervously tapping his foot. "Do you think they'll kick you out of the village?" Tim whispered. "Or will they just make you marry both of them? Could be worse." Mike shot him a look, not helping Tim. Mary sat across from them, her eyes red from crying. Leila, on the other hand, looked like she had nothing to lose, and maybe she didn't. The head elder, Senior Karanja, cleared his throat and began. "Mike, you have brought shame to this village. You promised marriage to Mary, yet you return with another woman and a child on the way. How do you expect to fix this?" Mike swallowed hard. I don't know. Leila cut in. "He made promises to me too, promises he needs to keep." The tension was thick. Some villagers sided with Leila, saying Mike had responsibilities to her and the child. Others, particularly Mary's family, demanded that Mike stick to his original commitment. But then, in a twist nobody saw coming, Mercy, Mary's older sister, stood up and made a revelation. "There's something else you all don't know." Thank you for following the story to this point. Please subscribe. Chapter 4. The Secrets Unveiled. Mercy looked directly at Mike and then at Leila. "I knew about the affair long before Mike came back. He wrote me letters, telling me everything." Mary's eyes widened. "You knew?" Mercy nodded solemnly. "I didn't tell you because I thought Mike would come to his senses and break things off with Leila, but I was wrong." The crowd gasped. Mercy had been the only one keeping the village from exploding into chaos weeks ago. But now, with her confession, everything was out in the open. Leila smirked. "So you all knew, then why are you so surprised?" "Because you weren't supposed to come back," Mercy snapped, her voice filled with frustration. Mike felt like the ground beneath him was collapsing. He looked around. Faith was crying silently. Tim looked like he wanted to laugh but knew it wasn't the time. And Liz was furiously scribbling notes as if she was planning to sell this story to a gossip magazine. Suddenly, a voice from the back of the crowd spoke up. It was Leila's father, Mr. Kamau, who had just arrived from Nairobi. "Enough of this village nonsense. Mike, you're going to do right by my daughter or face the consequences." Chapter 5. Decisions and Reconciliations. Mr. Kamau was not a man to be trifled with. He was wealthy, powerful, and used to getting what he wanted. He approached the council with a sharp gaze. "Either Mike marries Leila, or I will make sure his family suffers." The elders looked worried. But before anyone could respond, Mary stood up. She walked over to Leila, her voice calm but cold. "You think you can waltz into my life and take everything from me? You can have Mike, but I'm not leaving this village." Mike's heart dropped. This was not how he wanted things to go. He loved Mary, but his guilt was suffocating him. "Mary, wait, please." "No, Mike," Mary interrupted. "You've made your bed. Now you can lie in it." As she walked away, the village seemed to erupt into chaos. People started shouting, and the elders tried to regain control. But amidst the noise, Leila finally spoke softly, almost to herself. Maybe this wasn't worth it, after all. Leila disappeared. She left a letter with Mercy, addressed to Mike. "I came here thinking I could take you away from your past, but I realized you never really left it behind. I'm going back to Nairobi, and I'll raise our child there. Don't come looking for us. Leila." The village was shocked. Mr. Kamau was furious but decided to let it go after some pressure from the elders. Mike, however, was left to pick up the pieces of his life. He approached Mary's house one last time, unsure of what to expect. Mary opened the door, her face tired but kind. "I thought you'd come," she said. "I made a mess of everything," Mike admitted. Mary sighed. "Yes, you did. But I never stopped loving you, Mike. I just stopped waiting for you to realize that." Epilogue. In the end, Mike and Mary reconciled. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't perfect, but they found a way to rebuild their relationship. As for Leila, she went on to raise her child in Nairobi, choosing a path of independence over chaos. The village of Limuru went back to its quiet life, but everyone remembered the scandal. And though there were no more promises left to break, the issue had left Mike a changed man. He now saw things differently. Leila and Mary learnt to forgive and forget even the most painful form of betrayal. What do you think Mike should have done? Tell me what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching this video, and also check out some of our other similar stories. Please subscribe to support this channel.